Hello, my name is Daniel Thompson, and I never imagined I would be talking about this to you. Even though I'm very rich today, until not long ago, my life was quite ordinary. Well, in truth, it was pretty bad. I lived that traditional life shaped by the media, where you had to study, graduate from a college, and get a job. But that didn't seem to have worked for me. I was always broke, always waiting for the next paycheck to drop into my account to try to support my family. I had tried everything: law of attraction, investments, betting, making extra income. But none of that worked, and with each passing day, I was more financially ruined. My wife worked part-time as a cashier in a supermarket at night. Our routine was like this: when I got home from my job, she was leaving for hers. We had to divide it this way because we couldn't afford daycare for our little son, David, so it was the only way to make it work. But this routine put a strain on our relationship because we hardly ever saw each other. Coupled with our financial difficulties, life really became hard, and frankly very miserable for us. But the climax came on a hot summer weekend when my in-laws were in town. We went out to dinner to celebrate my father-in-law's birthday. That's when it happened. My wife asked me to pay for dinner, but I thought we had agreed that she would pay with the salary she had just received. But I forgot that she had to change the car's tires and ran out of money the day before. I quickly grabbed my phone, and that's when I started to break into a cold sweat. I opened the banking app and immediately wanted to vomit the food back up. There were only $38.66 in my account, and the worst part, my 2 credit cards were maxed out. We had no way to pay for dinner. In the end, my father-in-law paid for everyone's food on his own birthday. After dinner, they called my wife aside and said they were going to lend us money, but they were worried because they thought I was addicted to gambling, betting, or drinking. None of that was true, but it was the last straw for my wife. She told me this wasn't the life she expected when we got married. She packed up a few bags and took our son to her parents' house. I was devastated. The embarrassment at dinner had already been bad enough, but now it seemed like I was on the path to divorce. I knew my wife deserved more than this, and she could probably find someone better than a loser like me. She could find a real man who would truly support his family. But that was the last thing I wanted to happen, and the idea of another man raising my son drove me crazy. Not knowing what to do, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind and think. As I was walking down the street, I decided to go into a library that was near our house. I can't remember how many years it had been since I last went into a library. It's crazy to think about it now, but entering that library on that specific day changed the trajectory of my entire life. When I got there, I spotted James, an old college classmate whom I hadn't seen in a very long time. He was full of books. He was so focused that he didn't even notice when I sat down next to him. He kept mumbling to himself, and eventually, he slammed his hand on the table. He seemed stressed. Finally, curiosity got the better of me, and I called out to him. "Hello, James, how are you?" He got startled and jumped off the bench. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you," he said, apparently scared. "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted to say hi and ask about what you were reading." His eyes widened, and he quickly stashed the paper into a bag he was carrying. "Why? What do you want to know? Did someone send you here?" he asked irritably. I said that no one sent me, I was just curious. Then he told me there were just some notes and it was no big deal. And he quickly changed the subject and we started to chat. The conversation went back and forth until I ended up venting about my humiliating day. I told him about my financial situation, how my marriage was hanging by a thread, and how life seemed so hard. That's when James told me that his marriage had ended and his wife had left him for a director at the company he was working for. You could see the pain in his face when he told the story. And he sadly told me how he can only see his daughter every 2 weekends, which was the hardest part. That's when he turned and looked directly into my eyes and said he had to tell me what those notes were so I wouldn't end up in the same situation as him. Then James looked around to see if there was anyone near us, got closer to me, and spoke softly. "Look, let me explain. I just got fired from the company I worked for because I found a secret of my billionaire boss. All because I saw something I shouldn't have. Something that can transform our entire life. Well, let me start from the beginning." James began to tell me about his former billionaire boss. He told me how everything he did was successful, every investment, every idea worked, and made him a lot of money. But the problem was that his boss wasn't super intelligent, someone who deeply understood business. He just seemed to have a lot of luck. And that bothered James, as well as the fact of working 12 hours a day to earn a low salary that barely paid the bills. while his billionaire boss showed up just a few hours a week to see how things were going. So one day, James needed to find some documents from years ago. He began to rummage through the entire office to find them, until at one point, while looking through the boss's drawers, he came across an old brown leather book. He became curious and started reading about what that book was. The book spoke of something called the wealth vibration method, and it claimed this was responsible for all the wealth people attract into their lives. In summary, this book confirms what spiritual leaders have been saying for centuries, that you can attract wealth and abundance if your vibrations are high. Now pay attention, because the next part is crucial to understanding how this works. Okay, so vibrations move everything in the universe. Most people know this these days. Everything has its own unique vibration, right? Me, you, the tree outside, every grain of sand on the beach. We all vibrate at our own unique frequency. And what humans discovered centuries ago is that everything that happens in your life is the result of your vibrations. If your vibrations are high, you attract abundance, wealth, health, and positive relationships. In short, all the good things in life. These are the people who always seem to be lucky all the time. On the other hand, if your vibrations are low, your life will be quite different. These people experience a lack of abundance in their lives, stuck in a dead-end job, always attracting toxic partners to their dysfunctional relationships, perpetually stuck in a financial hamster wheel, always grinding and grinding just trying to pay off their debts, and all this without a glimmer of hope for improvements. Does it sound familiar? Okay, so we know we want to keep our vibrations high to experience a better life, full of wealth, abundance, and peace. But there are two major problems preventing 99% of us from being able to keep our vibrations high. The first reason: as we age, our vibrations naturally become weaker and weaker. And when you become an adult, your vibrations are so weakened that you can't experience an abundant life. That's why you live paycheck to paycheck. And you almost never get to spend your time the way you choose, as only 1% of people do. The second reason: in modern times, we are being born with increasingly lower vibrations. All the toxins, processed foods, and modern technology end up harming us. Everything that causes cancer, Alzheimer's, and all these terrible diseases is the same cause that makes us born with low vibrations. And that's why we are born at a disadvantage. Now combine this with a natural decline of vibrations due to aging. Things go from bad to worse. For these reasons, we spend our entire lives with low vibrations without ever having a chance to have a wealth vibration and live a better life. Which, of course, results in a stressed, overburdened, unhappy, depressed, and excessively anxious population. Then James continued talking about his boss. It turns out that my boss was exactly like his. He looked stressed out. The business was going from bad to worse, and the company was almost declaring bankruptcy. Until at a certain point, he started to become obsessed with vibrations, and all these things, even made a trip to Nepal to study more about it. And after this trip, things started to change completely for his boss. And in a short time, he transformed a nearly bankrupt company into one of the largest companies in the world. He became an extremely successful billionaire. So I asked James, so does it mean that your former boss discovered how to increase wealth vibrations on this trip? James looked into my eyes, smiled, and said, "That's right." Wow, I can't even imagine the kind of crazy procedure that must be necessary to increase vibrations, I said while staring into space. But James told me that I would be surprised how simple it is. He continued talking about what the book said. In the book, it said there was a way to elevate wealth vibrations naturally without any kind of risk. According to the book, there is a way to increase your vibration in just 7 minutes a day, which is supposedly enough to keep your vibrations at their peak all the time. And when that happens, the floodgates of the ocean of wealth and abundance open up, allowing money and wealth to flow into your life in an amazing way. The crazy part about this is that this technology is based on 9th century Gregorian chants, and in fact, its foundation goes even further back than that. A long time ago, there was a Greek philosopher named Pythagoras, and he used to prescribe music as medicine. He called this sacred geometry. Remember, this was before the birth of Christ. And even today, shamans are known to use music in their ceremonies. Why? Because the sound vibrations of music are capable of changing our inner vibrations. In other words, we can harness the power of sound to increase our wealth vibrations. So this ancient Eastern book proved that we can increase our wealth vibration through the power of sound waves. If you are not living the life of financial abundance that you desire, it means that your body is not vibrating at the frequency it should be. That's what's preventing wealth from flowing to you. So, does it mean we can increase our wealth vibration with some kind of music? I asked James. James nodded, and he assured me that his former boss proved that it's possible. But obviously, the book didn't say what the sound frequencies of the songs that would increase your wealth vibration would be. Then James pulled out the sheet he was looking at when I arrived at the library and told me. Below this book, I found a scroll with some ancient codes. He said, "Look, I'm not one to mess with other people's things, but it seems like something told me that I needed to save those codes, so I went to the printer and made a copy." He said he was sure his former boss had brought those codes from his trip, and that they might contain the frequencies that the songs needed to have to raise the vibration of wealth. But he had been trying for days and had no idea how to decipher those codes. After James told me this, I felt discouraged. I had gotten so excited about this, and now we had no idea how we could decipher those codes. I was silent for a few seconds, thinking that there must be some way out of this to make it work, until I remembered my cousin. He was a history professor and had specialized in paleography, which is the area that studies manuscripts, parchments, and other ancient documents. The coincidence seemed too crazy, but I accepted it as a sign from the universe, so I decided that I needed to do something. I told James about the incredible coincidence and asked him if he would feel comfortable with me asking my cousin to decipher these notes for us. After all, what's the point of having this document if we can't understand it? James agreed on the spot. The next day, we went to my cousin's house and asked him to try to decipher those codes. He asked us to leave a copy of the codes and he would take a look. The following night, he called me and said that he had managed to decipher part of the codes. The part that he managed to decipher represented 2 specific numbers, and he believed that these numbers would be 2 sound frequencies. When I hung up the phone, I could hardly contain my excitement. My hands were sweating. Was I finally going to get rich and bring my wife back home? James had already researched a company to produce the audio tracks for us. We thought that if we made 2 soundtracks, one in each frequency, one of them would have to be the frequency that would raise our wealth vibration. When we received the call that the audio tracks were ready, I was bursting with happiness. You know that feeling? Felt like I was floating in the air. After all, James assured me that this was all 100% true. So, we decided to try out 1 track each. He listened to one frequency for a few days and I the other. We played the frequency for a week straight, and well, nothing happened. Actually, I lost money during this time. I got a speeding ticket, my car broke down, and I had to buy medicine for my son who was spending the weekend with me. And James, he wasn't doing much better. Honestly, at that moment, I started to think it was all nonsense. Was this even true? Did James make all this up? Was that book all lies? I felt like a fool and embarrassed. I guess deep down I just wanted to believe that it was all true and that I could change my life. At that moment, I almost gave up on everything. We had the exact frequencies and still nothing was happening. There had to be some valuable information in the codes that we didn't know yet. After all, the only thing we've discovered so far were the frequency numbers. So I spent the entire weekend trying to decipher those codes and wondering why they weren't working. At some point, while I was trying to focus on the codes, my son David was playing with a toy drum and guitar. He was trying to make noise with both instruments at the same time. At that moment, while he was trying to make noise with both instruments at the same time, I had an idea. What if we listened to both frequencies at the same time, in just one audio track? The following week, James and I tried my theory, and we agreed to meet at a snack bar to discuss our experience. After another bad week, I didn't even want to go, because I didn't even have enough money to even pay for a cup of coffee. But I decided to show up anyway to give James a response. If he bothered to show up, of course. But when I arrived, there was James with a big smile on his face. James really seemed to be emitting a different vibration than when I had seen him. When I sat down, he went straight to the point. He looked into my eyes and said, "I think it's working." I looked at him and said, "Well, it's not for me. In fact, I'm more broke than when I started." James continued talking enthusiastically. "Daniel, I'm telling you, something's happening. A few days ago, I got a call saying I have $383,000 waiting for me to claim from the time my great uncle passed away. But look, he died almost 4 years ago. My inheritance was lost in a pile of paperwork and I was never notified. The craziest thing is that I never knew this great uncle. He was just a distant relative. And to top it off, I found this when I walked into the snack bar. So I'm going to pay for the coffee today," he said, holding a $100 bill. I couldn't believe it. Why was the wealth method working for James and not for me? Was my vibration so weak that I couldn't increase it? It didn't make sense. I was listening to the same audio frequencies as him, and yet nothing was happening to me. I told James that I didn't think it was going to work for me. Maybe I should just accept that I wasn't lucky in life and move on. But at that moment, James said something that caught my attention. He said, "My day starts better when I listen to the audio tracks as soon as I wake up." It turns out I was listening to the audio tracks in the afternoon, while James was listening in the morning, and maybe that's why it wasn't working for me. I shared my idea with James, and he said it was worth a try for me. After all, look at how things were going for him. So the next day, I started listening to the audio tracks early in the morning, right when I woke up. And what happened next is almost unbelievable. A few days after using the sound frequencies early in the morning, I got a promotion at my job that came with a $5,000 bonus. Okay, that's not bad, I thought. Surely it's better than having a negative balance in my bank account. But the next day, I got news from my lawyer that he had received a settlement proposal in a lawsuit that I had been in court for over 10 years. And well, I won $439,000 that day. At that moment, I thought to myself, my God, this is really happening. I had another meeting with James scheduled for the next day and was excited to share the good news. The craziest thing is that he had attracted even more money since the last time I saw him. He took his money and bought a business in the medical equipment sector. And just 3 days later, a large company in the medical field contacted him and bought his company on the spot for $4.7 million more than James paid for it. Which means that James went from being unemployed to a millionaire in a matter of weeks. At this point, we looked at each other like two kids who just discovered a buried pirate treasure. We did it! We did it! We increased our wealth vibrations. A few months later, our entire lives had been completely transformed. Money was certainly no longer something we were worried about. James invested his millions in companies and startups. He said that business opportunities kept popping up for him and always without any effort. Now he is building his beach mansion so he can surf every day. As for me, well, life has never been better. Shortly after I won several $100,000 in that lawsuit, I was approached by the owner of the company where I worked. It turns out he was expanding the company across the country and wanted to know if I wanted to be his partner in some units, which is basically providing me with passive income right now. In addition, I took the profit I made with this company and decided to buy some land in a new neighborhood. Shortly after my purchase, news came out that 2 new shopping centers were being built near my lands. This made them triple in value in just a few days, generating me a profit of over $2.7 million. But the best part is that my wife and I are together again. We moved to Miami and now live in a seafront penthouse. Our son attends one of the best private schools in the country, and we are the happy family we always dreamed of being. Remember that James and I were at our lowest just a few months before. So I think it's safe to say that we raised our vibrations enough to attract wealth and abundance effortlessly. There was just one problem. What do we do with this information? Up until this point, we hadn't shared this with anyone. But obviously, people noticed the sudden and drastic change in our lives. Some people even thought we were involved in something illegal. So when James's younger brother came to him asking for help, we decided to see if the wealth method would work for him. He had just been fired from his job in the tech field, and he was at risk of being evicted from his house by the bank. But like magic, everything changed when he started using the method to raise his vibration. In addition to not losing his house, he earned a few million in just a few months because he met an angel investor who decided to invest in an old business idea he'd had for years. Which is incredible because he went from an employee who worked about 60 hours a week to being the boss of a major tech company. Soon after, friends and relatives were asking us how all this was happening. We knew we wouldn't be selfish like James's old boss, and we decided that it was time. We had to share this with the public. So, I'm happy to present to you the Infinite Fortune Protocol. This is the only sequence of audio tracks that has been proven to increase your wealth vibration. And the best part is that it happens effortlessly. Literally, there is nothing like this on the planet. While everyone else is chasing after money, talking about struggling and working 12 to 16 hours a day, you can simply listen to these audio tracks for 7 minutes upon waking up and let the money come to you. Now take a minute to think about all the ways people try to get rich. Playing the lottery while emitting low vibrations. Good luck with that. Buying cryptocurrencies or high-risk investments without understanding how they work and losing your hard-earned money. Going back to college and spending $100,000 on a master's degree, only to move up some rung on the corporate ladder. working 2 or 3 jobs just to end up exhausted from overwork and still broke, failing into get-rich-quick schemes and ending up in a worse situation than when you started. And I don't want you to have to go through any of that. That's why I'm so excited to share the Infinite Fortune Protocol with you today, because I want to help you get off this financial hamster wheel, working your whole life for an ungrateful boss because you have bills to pay. And I know it's nearly impossible to get ahead no matter how hard you work. There's always something that keeps you broke. So you're just surviving to pay bills. But it's not your fault. The modern system is designed this way. But now that you know you can increase your wealth vibration that's already within you, you can join the thousands of other people who have used the Infinite Fortune Protocol to completely transform their lives. Like John, who said, "I've had many financial difficulties in my life. No matter how hard I tried, I never progressed. I confess, I didn't believe it when I first heard about the Infinite Fortune Protocol. However, the results exceeded all my expectations. Before knowing about this opportunity, I worked hard as a bricklayer's helper, enduring the scorching sun to ensure my livelihood. However, today I live in a luxurious mansion in the most sophisticated neighborhood in the city. This incredible change in my life is thanks to the Infinite Fortune Protocol." Or what Emily said, "When COVID hit, I was burned out from my job as a teacher, but I didn't know what else to do. I had been a teacher all my life. Then my sister shared the Infinite Fortune Protocol with me. I found out that now I don't have to worry about money anymore. A friend approached me and asked if I would like to assist in her new online homeschooling course. Now I just sit back and receive the profits without having to do anything. I can enjoy my days traveling to the places I've already dreamed of. Increasing my wealth vibration changed my entire life." And we love the story of Jennifer. My husband had just passed away after a tough battle with cancer when a friend shared the Infinite Fortune Protocol with me. At that time, I had no idea how I was going to support my 3 children with my income. But it turns out, I don't even need that income anymore, because as soon as I increased my wealth vibration, money began to flow into my life effortlessly. Now, I take my children to school in a white Range Rover Vogue. I don't know where I would be now without this incredible method. Okay, so now you must be thinking, it sounds great, but exactly how do I use the Infinite Fortune Protocol? And I love answering this question because it's incredibly simple. Here's what you need to do. Get up in the morning, sit down with a cup of coffee or whatever you usually drink in the morning. Press play on your phone or computer and listen to one of the audio tracks for 7 minutes. They're already programmed to emit both frequencies at the same time. And then go enjoy your day.